Lori,
Mm-hmm.
can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if she is going, if Emily is going to give a report? Or do we even know if she's coming first?
I don't know. I sent her the list and she said, okay, thank you, but I don't know if, because her other one didn't come very often, so I don't know if Emily's even had any training as to what her job is. I know they had a student council meeting.
Yeah, and we went.
Yeah, so I don't know if that.
Are we still live?
I don't think anybody's on there yet, but Tricia's just checking, so we can just hear chat.
Are the kids, Miss Wendy?
Right.
Oh, good. How's Squirrel doing in New York?
I don't have a report.
Junior?
I should.
Oh, I have it. It just sent me
Awesome.
the
How's she
day
doing?
text you.
She's great.
Oh,
Could
okay.
not be happier.
Good.
She's having a very
Good.
yes.
And Maud's good?
Maud is doing fab. We just dropped her this weekend at Santa Barbara, PCSD.
Oh, to check it out?
She's going.
Oh, she's there.
Starts
That's right.
first year. And so she is so
Hi.
totally engaged already.
Oh,
Just
nice.
Really
That's such a great
needed to
place.
get totally.
Oh,
It was so diverse. And we're public union, like,
Yeah.
so her, but she
Yeah.
could get into her like,
Miss Jill, I was living in Santa Barbara.
yeah, phenomenal.
Hi.
Well, did you come on in? I was just, that was a conversation.
I know, but I just wanted to follow up with a couple of the,
Yeah,
so
it
I
was
want to bug you.
With what?
I just didn't want to bug you.
Oh, no, it's
Following
okay.
up.
It was Community Foundation and the parent group were collaborating to do their pick and their social media and all the things they want to do for the bond campaigns.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
nice.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
It's a good meeting.
Very good. Sorry.
Do you
Jill?
know? Do you know
Yeah.
what?
Sorry. Colton?
Yes, come.
it's like,
Yeah,
it's taken me
it's
5 years to
right
get around to
right.
it. It looks beautiful. Yeah, it looks great. So, thank you. I mean, it definitely is nice to feel like more used to it. Right, it looks amazing. I love it.
Bond, I finally think I understand that.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
It's a matter of signature, it's a matter of,
And-
Andrew is running a few minutes late, but we'll start
Yeah,
it.
that's
not
that's
even part of our
Yeah,
meeting.
so, yeah,
Okay,
so
so-
the lease would go through its own RFP process.
Okay.
Because it'll be some
Huh?
banking institution or financial institution that will.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Hey, I got a microphone, this reminder, wherever you are, be there completely.
The administration figured, well, how do we pay for that?
Yeah.
It's like, we know the path, but we haven't
How to-
earmarked the dollars for it.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. This one, quick, check in. I'm reading documents real quick.
Student board member went home sick.
Oh, okay.
No. She said, oh. Bummer. Kind of empty on my side.
Scoot
Why don't you scoot
over.
down? Well, it's Andrew.
Oh, you can.
Turn off his. That's big, then I'm.
Well, she wants to be seen by everybody, but he sits in front.
Oh, wait, can you come back, Lori?
All these requirements.
Let's do it.
All right, I'll call to order this regular session meeting of the Park City School Board of Education on September 21st. Pledge of Allegiance. When do you guys lead us?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to the consent agenda. And I get a motion to approve the consent agenda that includes regular session minutes of August 17th, closed session minutes of August 17th, accounts payable registers of August 12th, 18th, 20th, 23rd, 26th, September 3rd, and September 4th, 2021, travel request, LEA specific licenses and endorsements, personnel information, July and August expenses and revenues.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second? Perfect. Do we have any discussion?
I do not.
Okay, perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Oh, gosh.
Did you hang up on her?
No, I think I just, I hit something besides the button that's gonna hit. Hold on, let me just make sure the mute button on, mute button off. Sorry about that. All right, we will move on to employee groups. Jake, if you'd like to join us.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
This will be super quick. So we've been in a lot of different conversations with the district, and so we just wanted to hit on kind of two things and call it good. Yeah, so thanks for having me here again. I want to start out by saying, first, as some of you heard, we've been having issues with teachers using PTO to cover COVID quarantine. It's an issue that's statewide, nationwide. It's kind of happening all over the country. And we kind of noticed it had become a problem for teachers. And we wanted to thank Dr. Gilday and Dr. Sorensen. We think we've maybe found some solutions to that, trying to be creative and make that work for everyone, and our school side administrators as well for working with our teachers on this via grants and some other options. So the teachers aren't using their PTO when they're quarantined or sick with COVID. We want teachers to feel like they can do what's best for students and keep themselves safe, and I think we have some options for this that we started working on. So we're pretty excited about that. Teachers want to do their jobs and keep kids safe while offering a quality education. That's kind of our focus. So while we've not solved the problem yet, we're pretty optimistic we made good progress over the last few days, and we're looking forward to continuing to work on that. Secondly, we'd like to once again kind of talk a little bit about COVID mitigation and mask wearing. We're starting to see students going home sick. I personally had 5 emails today from kids who were home sick, contacted me and said, hey, I can't come to school today. We know that every illness is not COVID, but we're starting to see the impacts of the Delta variant with our students and with their families. And some of the recent reports from coronavirus.utah.gov are a bit alarming to us. We've been encouraging our members to wear masks for their own safety and also to prevent loss of instructional time through quarantine illness, trying to keep people kind of use PTO when they're out. We'd like to ask the district to continue to work with us to implement masks more effectively for those entering our buildings as we move into fall sports and winter sports, and we have parents coming in and out, some of those kinds of things. Another issue we're kind of concerned about are our nurses and the work they're doing to contact trace and quarantine. Feeling like they're working pretty hard to make that contact tracing work, but there's not a lot of follow-up in our sites. And so that's something we'd like to kind of work on and help our nurses out with that. And I said, overall, we have a lot of topics we're kind of working on. Those are two we've been talking about the last few days. But we're pretty excited about some solutions we can find this year to issues that have been simmering for a long time. Dr. Goulet and I talked for, I think, about 2 hours yesterday, maybe after school, about some of these topics. And so we're pretty excited to move forward and continue to find some solutions. So thanks for hearing us and working with us. We'll be in contact about some ideas we have with the whole board as well.
Perfect.
Sounds great.
Thank you. And please know that I know Dr. Gilday is going to fill us in on some of those things as well, and whatever we can do to
For sure.
we're open and support that as well.
We're going to work
So
on some stuff this week now that school's kind of quiet down a bit.
Yeah.
We're into the swing of it.
perfect. Great. All right. Who wants in the hot seat next? Dr. Mr. Tanner?
Good afternoon. This is the operations report for the 21st of September, 21, first day of fall.
Yeah.
So COVID mitigation, as you just heard, we're in a high transmission index. The numbers are fluctuating up and down, so it's really hard to show any trend data. But they seem relatively stable. They're not alarming at any point here. They're higher than they were last year at this time. But not anything right now that requires extraordinary action. But we're watching. Our schools, the 14-day case count is up to 24 now. That's the highest it's been since we started. But the Eckerd Hill Middle School is the highest with 6 right now, and that's still at about 0.7% of the population. So the numbers are moving up, but the McPoland, Treasure, Trailside, and the high school all have 3 cases each. The high school has been stable at 3 cases. And the other thing to remember about this 14-day case count, these aren't necessarily sick kids. These are cases that have been counted in the last 14 days. So a lot of the children who have showed up on that case count have already passed their quarantine periods and are in good shape. So just to keep that in mind, we have not slacked back on any of our layered mitigation strategies. Those are all still in place, as strong as they ever have been. The mask issue is, a societal issue that we try to manage the best we can by modeling that with our teachers and encouraging people to wear them. But as you know, we can't force that on anyone. And there's some, peer pressure that enters into the picture. There's some societal, there's some perceptions of freedom that enter into the picture, and we just have to work with what's on our plate right now. Positive note, we did open up a testing clinic at the high school starting on Monday. 7:15 and 9:15, if you can spread the word, for any of our students or staff that have a desire to do any testing. The idea is that we have it early enough that if somebody's feeling sick, rather than showing up for school and being a spreader, they can show up there and get tested, and if it's positive, stay home. So
Where is that in high school?
it's in the Eccles lobby, and it's staffed by our our grant-funded COVID nurse and volunteers from the hospital and from the county that were given to us by Phil Bondurant. So real nice cooperation between the groups there.
Is there any signage just out on Kearns? Because I remember seeing the truck that was there.
Yeah.
Just kind of send people there, or like, oh yeah, there's a...
It's a different entity than Test Utah.
Right, but is
Test
there
Utah.
some way to, advise that there's a...
Yes,
facility in there?
Well, it's just for our students.
No, I understand that, but I
Yeah,
mean,
so-
not for the community.
No, not for the community, but just to identify where it is.
No, I was gonna
Yeah,
ask that.
our grant funded nurse
Yeah.
is working with Lori to get that message pushed out
Got it.
to the parents through the school and the staff through the schools.
So it's just staff and students?
Right, and as you can imagine, we have to limit it
Yeah.
back, otherwise it
Yeah,
just blow up
yeah,
on
yeah,
us.
yeah, no, totally.
Thank you.
And we've got plenty of supplies to support it, and so that's in place.
Before you leave COVID, are you leaving it? Going to another topic, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So if we hit a 12%, we go to
2%.
2%, we go to mask.
In the K through 5 environments, right?
K through 5, 100% mask. If we hit it in any of the other schools, what happens?
We don't have a requirement there. We have a 30 head count requirement, and if we hit that, we go to test to stay.
Test to say, so which is what we did at the end of last year before you come to school.
Yeah, we
you
did
got
that mid-
Swabbed, yes, you can come in, no, you have to go back.
That's right.
And if you go back home, there is no remote school
Right.
to be a part of it. And if I choose not to have my child tested, then what's the pathway?
Well, we don't have remote school, but we do have a limited option of educational, there's a plan that Amy will probably speak to address that 2-week period. It's not intended to be a long-term fix, but it's certainly intended to be a stopgap for the short-term fix.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, on the security front, the Safe Schools Coalition met last night, a very productive conversation. I was a part of that, Amy was a part of that. And some community members sat around with the administration and kind of talked about some ideas on how to keep the schools safe. Talked about the policies around bullying and how we can get that word out and all that stuff. And we have the second meeting next Tuesday at 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock if anyone is interested in joining us. The security committee is going to be stood back up. Last year we took a break because of COVID. I don't want to muddy the waters prior to the bond election, so we're going to have our first session on the 10th of November. And it's really designed to get the community security team together to discuss what we put in place since our last meeting and to solicit ideas for improvement and also to get the band back together. So you put names and faces, and it really has paid off for me personally to be able to pick up a phone and contact any of the people that run that committee and stuff on behalf of the district. We've installed door open notification software at the high school, and it's going to be pushed next to Treasure. And that software notifies us if the door is propped open more than 30 seconds, and then a message is pushed to either our SRO, Kevin Porgill, our security officer, or our 2 APs. Of course, this just started last week, they're getting bombarded with door open notifications, but it's kind of coming down. And we're going to roll it out, like I said, next to Treasure and then to elementary schools. Our building intrusion alarms have also been operationally verified, and we're going to have all of those set between either 8 or 11 o'clock at night when the last custodian leaves, and turn back off at 6 o'clock. Over the years, that protocol has morphed into something that was really ineffective, and so many times we had buildings without alarms on at night, and so we're re-emphasizing that to make sure that doesn't happen. I also met with the Utah Schools Critical Incident Commission this last week, and we shared notes about the latest in school security in the state, and also compare notes about a COVID mitigation strategy. So we pick up some ideas from the neighboring districts. Buildings and grounds, just a few items for you today. They're still working on some summer projects that were delayed by supply chain issues. You might have seen some of the concrete work in front of Ecker. And Todd is just finishing up installing 2 new high-efficiency boilers at Trailside. And we've also talked with a couple of the baseball stakeholder parents about the possibilities of turf fields and what we can partner on to get that done. So that happened last week. Transportation, we have 2 drivers who will complete training this week. We have 2 more that enter the training pipeline, so that's very positive. Transportation met with human resources, so we had a staffing roundtable and we're brainstorming ideas. They came up with some great ideas to not only help address the driver shortage, but also to address shortages in other positions in aides and that kind of thing. Our recruiting efforts continue, and we're looking at perhaps an incentive pay at the end of the year to encourage retention. interviewed and offered the position for the new shop maintenance. You may have read that the last person resigned after a lengthy time with the district. And so we interviewed and had a replacement identified, and he accepted the position today. We're also looking at a permanent UV light installation solution for cleaning our buses. That is essentially a light strip like you might see right here down the center of the buses. You put on a switch, bathes the bus in UV light, and would kill any viruses. And so we've got a couple vendors who are looking at to potentially install that. We still have the COVID protocol in place on the buses. Masks are highly encouraged, 2 per seat. And we're fogging the buses between each one of the runs. Because of that, we at present we're not allowing any space available transportation, so the buses aren't as full as they usually would be. If we come out of high transmission index and get to a manageable level, we can start thinking about allowing people to space again on the bus. Also, our transportation director is working and putting together a procedures manual to have clarity between the management and the folks staffing the department there, and to avoid any problems. Child nutrition services, I think I mentioned last time that free lunch, breakfast available for all students through the entire fiscal year. John has done a great job of working through his staffing challenges, and he's got job offers to all the positions that are open. They're not on site yet, but they will be soon. And all of his summer equipment purchases are installed, which were steamers, freezers, and ovens at various schools. Human Resources is really working hard right now, trying to solve some of the striving to support our department leaders in their shortfalls. As I mentioned, Shad ran the roundtable to help us brainstorm ideas, and we've got some actionable items that we're already working on, some great ideas for down the road. Our sub-fill rates have been hovering around 70% right now, and we're evaluating the relationship with Edu staff to see if that's still a valuable relationship or where that needs to go down the road.
Can I, on that note, if there's things that we can do as a board to help support that, I know it's an issue, so please let us know.
Sure. And Shad is here. Shad, do you have any comments you want to make about the sub rates or Edu staff?
I can tell you that they're doing a lot of proactive marketing. 3 or more sub applications came in today, so I know they're doing what they can. It's a hard call whether we were doing it ourselves or them, if we would be having any more success because of the economy and the pandemic, but just know it is a high priority.
And again, if we can do anything to help
Thank you.
support any of that, let us know.
And just generic staffing, as wages have moved up because of pandemic considerations, and a lot of our competitive sets, they've moved up to a level where the district is at. And so now our people who would staff some of our temporary positions are also in competition with other entities that may be able to hire them faster, get them their first paycheck quicker, those kinds of things. And so we're looking at ways to reduce those inequities to make us a more attractive employer. That's part of the roundtables that Shad has been running for us. And that's all I have tonight. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I want to start with one of my favorite things. I want to highlight our early learning and our preschool program. We have full-time preschool programs that run 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, at each of our elementary schools for our 4-year-olds. Additionally, we offer a 2-day-a-week program for 3-year-old students at McPolin, Jeremy, and Trailside. We'd like to be able to do that at Harley's, but right now the space just doesn't permit us to be able to run a 3-year-old program there. We're serving 110 4-year-olds and 46 3-year-olds. During the day, if you want to know what a preschool day looks like, they have morning rotations in small groups. And then between each of those rotations, they get together to help them learn how to start sitting and participating as a larger group. And they are able to do music and letters and sounds. They read aloud. do math activities, and do social and emotional lessons. So research shows that students who participate in a preschool experience higher levels of academic achievement. And the time that our youngest students spend working with our preschool teachers really helps to ensure that they build foundational skills that prepare them for learning in our kindergarten classrooms and beyond. So I just wanted to make sure that you are aware of the hard work that happens there and the great program that is for our youngest students. I'm also excited to share that in direct response to the board's request that we find more time and opportunity for elementary teachers to be able to collaborate with each other and to be able to also provide additional enrichment experiences for students. We had our first Reach Your Summit Friday at our elementary schools last Friday. The program is being piloted right now in the 21-22 school year. During the time that students are participating in enrichment, grade level teachers are participating in professional development. They're collaborating in teams, planning lessons, analyzing student data, and preparing. Students get to rotate 4 times a year through 4 different areas. The first area we call our Reach Your Summit Explorations, and that's where students are looking at their strengths and interests and exploring future careers. That's being done in partnership with some of our CTE teachers in our secondary program. The second rotation is a core-related activity, so it is an extension of learning. For example, the 5th graders last week were able to do some additional things around U.S. history. The third area of rotation is a social and emotional skills building. It's aligned to Utah and Park City School District's Portrait of a Graduate. And then the fourth is a great opportunity for us to bring in community partnerships. And we have several groups that we're working with that are coming into schools and that are providing opportunities for kids to experience things that they might not normally be able to do, or that a field trip just may not be feasible. So, for example, last week our 5th grade students participated in artistic and dance-related activities that were brought to us by Woodbury. So, the funding for those Fridays comes from our ESSER 2 grant because it really is focused on giving teachers an opportunity to understand how to best address learning loss. So we're hopeful that this pilot will accomplish all those objectives, to provide additional time for grade level teams, but also to give our students a great opportunity to participate in really aligned learning to explore strengths and interests. As you're aware, this year we implemented our Park City School District Instructional Framework that was aimed at providing common expectations for teaching and learning. The framework addresses 4 areas: preparation and planning, instructional delivery, assessment and data analysis, and classroom culture. Now that the framework's being utilized, we'll monitor the implementation through school visits and classroom observations. This will happen quarterly and will be followed by a regular meeting to debrief with school principals and leadership teams. It's important to note that the evaluation committee that's been working with HR and T&L the last probably year actually now, have all met regularly to revise the evaluation policy that'll be coming before you here in a month, I believe. And they have put together a nice rubric that will be able to be aligned to the educator standards. What that means is that we're aligned. What we say we want teachers to do when they're teaching and what we want students to do when they're learning are now aligned to the things that we're observing and evaluating teachers on. So no more things that feel disjointed or unrelated. So we're really excited about that. I also wanted to inform the board a little bit about how we are handling short-term learning continuity. Because as we have students that need to be out for a short break because they've been exposed to COVID or are sick and need to be quarantined, at both the elementary level and the secondary level, each of our teachers have committed to keeping their lessons updated on Canvas. What that means is so that as a student is out, that they're able to access learning, although it's not a one-on-one teacher situation. They are able to go and see what their class did and make sure that they are able to participate in related activities. One of the things that we found over COVID, and we are trying to really understand the lessons of COVID and see how we can leverage them moving forward, is that we learned that it's not enough to just understand that a student's going to be home. We have to be able to help those students set up for success. So our schools now have people that are designated. In our elementary schools, it's our outreach coordinators who sit directly with either over the phone or computer, whatever's easiest for our families. And they go through a document that we've prepared that helps them ask questions like, you know, you're taking home this computer, do you have a charger? Do you know how to use it? Do you have internet at your home? Can we provide it for you? You know, we've set up times for them to connect directly with somebody so that there's always a response for them within the first 24 hours. You know, we've given them tips for, you know, how to set up learning success at home. I just think there's a lot of things that we learned about making sure that as we have people learning from home, that we've helped them think through what that looks like and supported them, you know, from our end on the school. The teachers are also using Friday afternoon time to be able to check in with students that need additional help or support.
So is that, so the protocol, so imagine, you know, my kid has, and just got the test back, now what do I do? Is there a protocol, so as a parent, who do I call? If I didn't have a computer or don't have a charger, like, is there a pathway, or how are we alerting parents?
Yeah, so we don't want parents to have to figure that out. So
Okay.
what we've said is that we're going to use the same process we have for any notification when someone is sick, which always comes through the nurse. So we've got a protocol where the nurse who becomes aware that a student is going to be out, then from the nurse it goes directly to the outreach coordinator and goes through the system. And we reach out to parents to make that connection and make sure that they have the things that they need, rather than waiting for the parents to contact us.
So like the day you find out the kid's not in, the next day, I mean.
As soon as we find
As soon as
out,
you find out, so it's Monday.
they go
Tuesday.
on immediately
Okay.
onto our working list.
And then does the child that's out, even though we don't have remote school, have access to the teacher if they have questions about the lessons or anything that they're learning on Canvas?
Yeah. So we have that, we have the dedicated time on Friday,
Uh-huh.
and then the teacher can also schedule, that's why we've assigned an outreach coordinator to communicate with the family, because they can say, hey, the child's having a struggle, and set up, you know, time during a preparation period time, or during, you know, rotation, or a time for them to be able to do that.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Because our teachers are still teaching.
Right,
so,
right, right.
you know, and I know they care so much about our kids, they worry about
Right.
wanting to get back to people right away, so we've tried to create a mechanism for that not to be overwhelming. And I wish we had known some of those things last year, because I think that unfortunately we had to learn that through the hard work of our teachers last year, that we needed to think about that differently.
And the outreach coordinators are feeling like the management of the number of students thus far is manageable.
Thus far, it seems to be manageable.
Yeah.
We'll see how things go at Ecker. You know,
Uh-huh.
that seems to be our highest impact right now, but I have not had anybody, and I've remained open for people to let me know, you know, we need feedback and we need to know how things are going. I haven't had anybody reach out and say, we can't do this.
Right, okay. That's great. Yeah, I had some people, I think at the start of school, just not quite knowing what to do or how to do it, and so that's fantastic.
Yeah. I think we're set. We're set for that. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Dr. Gumbel.
Hi, mine is short as well. Jake and I are on the same wavelength here, a little short this one. Our students and our staff are making the most of the 21 to 22 school year, which I actually labeled 2021. So I think I have maybe lost a year somewhere in between COVID.
I think we all wish we could lose
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But we did have a wonderful homecoming week, and the homecoming game on Friday was really well attended. The dance was really well attended. You could see all of the work the students put into making this fourth consecutive semester of addressing COVID into as new normal of an experience as possible. As a school system, we're committed to creating a safe learning environment for all of our students, and to continue to partner with our families to ensure all of our students can achieve their full potential academically, socially, behaviorally, and emotionally. And of course, that's always aligned to our vision and mission. As we set the course for a successful school year, you've heard this this afternoon about the Elementary Fridays program, and this enrichment opportunity is aligned not only to the Utah core standards and the portrait of the graduate, but also to the 6 guiding principles that underlie the future of learning in the master's facility plan that you're going to hear from Scott later in a few minutes on, along with Mr. Hopper. As we focus our energies on the 21-22 school year and consider the tremendous opportunities that exist in the present moment, we continue our efforts in increasing academic achievement for all students, providing the safe school environment that supports our whole child, attracting and retaining outstanding educators and staff, strengthening the school, community, and family engagement within our schools, and ensuring fiscal and operational responsibility. So as we look to this next 5 years with the strategic plan, as we build it out, these are really those initiatives that we want to keep moving forward and put measurable improvements into the system. As we look toward the future of learning in Park City School District, we appreciate our dedicated staff, our educators, our administrators, and community partners, as well as our community at large, as we support the initiatives that provide the greatest impact in improving the learning environment and educational outcomes for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to master planning update. Todd, the floor is yours.
Great. Well, we're privileged to have Scott Later here with us from MHTN. If you want to come on up. Sure. And can you turn on the projector?
No, sir. That's cool. The camera big lights away.
Do you have the...
Yeah.
What
are they?
Where? Oh, like, where's the remote? I don't know. I thought that was something. Anybody? Everybody?
Sorry, we have one for everybody. We're gonna have to get one.
Hold on, I'm not the one doing all the talking, so you don't need a sugar rush.
I was hoping
Todd's feeling personally offended.
Oh, maybe because I didn't get one.
Right.
But,
Sorry.
so Scott's, he's a familiar face. He worked with us in the master plan design study and was instrumental in many of the drawings that we're using now as we go through the projects themselves. Can I push on buttons? And MHTN is the design team with our design build group for both the high school and for Eckerd. So he's our man. He and his team will be working with all of our stakeholder groups and our teacher groups as we move forward and get all the designing done. And so he's prepared a presentation that wowed us this morning, and so we thought we'll just bring him right to the board and have you guys work with him here.
I'm going to get real familiar with I-80 between here and Salt Lake, right? Which is fantastic, and we do appreciate working with the district and kind of a continued relationship. I know I speak for Hogan Construction as well, that thank you for continuing that relationship. It's fantastic. So as this is loading up, I guess what we talked about this morning and really the kind of the reason for me being here today is just to revisit where we went with the master plan information. That was well-founded and well-grounded, and we want to continue that positive momentum as we move forward. It's fantastic that Hogan Construction is on board now, and we can start to add some reality to some of the cost estimating, as well as some of the phasing considerations. And so I think the message from our side is that it's we're moving in the same direction that we had discussed previously. We're always going to come back to, if we go to the next slide, we always are going to come back to the ideas of why are we here, what are we doing? And it really hinges on those 6 guiding principles that were outlined at this point in 2019, almost a couple of years ago, right? Talking about the students first and foremost and how we can support those folks. What we're going to be doing, though, as we move forward with this exercise prior to the bond, is really evaluating how, for example, at Park City High School, that addition, if we go to the next slide, filters into that campus and begins to look at the relationships on site. We're doing some evaluation with the engineering team to understand phasing considerations, utilities, kind of doing a lot of legwork so that if and when the bond passes, we can really move forward very quickly. Really, the program side has not changed at all. Really, we're looking at an addition to the west side of the existing building and adding roughly 28 classrooms to accommodate for that ninth grade student population. The next slide is really one that you've probably known and seen forever. This is the existing building. And really the plan of attack is to take that far west portion, the oldest portion of the building, and piece that off so that we can make way for this new two-phase addition that will house primarily CTE functions, incorporating the learning center components, really bolstering a lot of the academic ideas that are already within the school. Very similar process at Ecker Hill Middle. Again, we're doing a lot of the site evaluation. Todd Hansen is starting to work to get soils and site utility investigation underway. Looking at adding those remodel and addition pieces primarily on the western side, and looking at how that's going to impact pieces like the bus turnaround. Again, really looking at proactive ways that we can phase the project so that we're minimizing the student activities and disruptions. And at the end of the day, what that means is we're going to pick up about 20 new classrooms for that building, gain a lot more square footage in terms of usable space for those new students coming into the Ecker Hill project. So that's really the short and sweet from NHTN. We did present some conceptual ideas about the spaces as part of our interview process. These are very early, but just knowing our relationship with you, we're understanding kind of the direction we want to go that reinforces those educational ideas, really ties in well with the existing architecture and spaces that you already have in your building. So it blends everything together. We did interview last week for the elementaries, and as the master plan architect, we understand those relationships. And so as we meet with some of the student groups, there's kind of a whole list of advisory committees that we're going to be meeting with over the next couple of weeks. We'll be at least revisiting these conversations as well at the elementary level. For all four of those projects, looking at adding the early learning components, and in some case, McPaulin and Jeremy Ranch adding the wraparound services as well. So, any questions that I can answer for the board or for the group?
So we think it's important, though, to bring the community, we had this thing called COVID, right? That kind of put a pause, reasonably and understandably, a pause on everything, but we're finding we kind of have to revisit again, especially for new people who don't, new residents who don't know anything about this background. So it gives that little bit of the history and the context. But again, the 6 principles, the principles for learning, the guiding principles for the design and the development, really, I think even with this crazy 18 months-ish, you can see that when we go back to those, it's exactly what we want as we go forward. So if we're designing against those resilient, principles, I think the district will be in really good shape for the future, because it's really a plan that's forward-thinking and that goes beyond just this iteration and this improvement into that 30-year vision that you guys helped to craft, with the input of a lot of community members over a lot of time. So I think it's exciting, right, to be thinking about those real-world experiences and the flexible adaptive spaces, which we know we need. I think I'm surprised, Amy, we didn't talk about that with the enrichment Fridays, just the way you use space in the outdoors, in such different ways when you're doing these real-world kind of learning and experiments and using our habitat, where the kids are getting experiences with all of that. But it all comes back to the relationships and how the staff and the students are feeling in the schools, and the airflow and the air quality and the light, all those things. So I feel like everything, the work the community did really comes together nicely in this plan.
And can I just jump on that, because it feels like when we did the ed spec exercise, feels like a million years ago, especially with COVID hitting, that all of this dovetails back to the work that we in the community did on the ed specs and then the reviews. So this isn't coming out of the blue. This is all, got a little derailed with COVID, but reminding myself, like, all this work's been done, all those questions have been asked and answered, and this is where we are. So to me, that's
And it's even more than dovetail. That was the foundational
right.
work that laid out what will the spaces look like. what will the buildings look like?
Right.
What do we need? And now we're finally getting to actually build it.
Yeah.
We've got the foundation, let's now build those places for our students.
Right, and I think reminding ourselves of like those, exactly what you said, Dr. Gilday, like those ed specs of adaptable spaces and the outdoors and flexibility and, inclusion. So, yeah, we're really excited. Finally, we're here. Finally.
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Yeah,
out.
absolutely.
Just one of your many trips.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, we will move on to decision of the 21-22 calendar revision. So can I get a motion to approve the revised calendar of 2021 to make any needed adjustments based on the revised start date of August 23rd? And I believe the only other addition in there is we took out a March date, correct? A Monday.
I move to adopt the calendar as revised as stated.
Second.
Any discussion?
So it was just that March date, it was the 11th or something?
So March was going to be a PD day that we actually built in case of snow.
Oh, okay.
Instead of snow this year, it was the fire.
Okay.
So we will have an in-person learning day that day, but on that date, the kids will actually be practicing some of their computer skills and some of the online, but we'll have an in-person day.
And if there is a snow day, then we revisit?
Then we have to, extend.
Revisit
or
this
add
day.
another
Okay,
grade.
so there's no other padding in there for,
No.
so, okay.
Yeah.
But we can always go to, like,
You got a day on it, didn't you?
with that, or we can go to the state too, right, and ask for, okay. All right. So can we approve?
Any comments, Amy?
Do you have any comments, Mr. Councilman?
No, I'm fine.
You're very quiet over there
I
today.
know.
Sorry, I'll be
We need you to be
more annoying in the second half.
Perfect, I love
Thank
it.
you, thank you.
All right. Kara, did you have any questions or concerns about that?
No, that looks good.
Perfect. All right. So all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Aye.
All right. We will now move on to closed session. So I make a motion to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of deliberation as an evaluation committee to review procurement solicitation. And so, just need to make
I move to adjourn to go to closed session.
Second?
no,
No, my name or yes?
your
Which
name.
one? And Peter.
Andrew Kaplan.
When you go. Aaron Greeley.
Still there.
It's roll call.
Roll call. It's like-
But you can join.
All right, Kara did say her name too. All right, we will be back. Kara, I'm gonna hang up on you and call you back.
When do we say yes?
We're coming, yeah.
So it's,
Me too, me too.
Okay. I have seen this guy told me because I thought you today when I was leaving. It's like, I have to go back and make.
I thought of that too.
Just about the advisory. Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. The evaluation yeah, yes, and I also heard them today. There it is. Right. Especially the students.
Hi, Joe, I need to reschedule my appointment on Friday if I could.
Anything in your application?
Marie Pierce.
No, actually, I really
move on to the decision of the design build contract for Ecker Hill Middle School. Could I get a motion to ratify the Ecker Hill Middle School agreement with Hogan and MHTN as recommended?
I make a motion to affirm the contract or?
So ratify this.
To ratify as stated.
As the
Okay.
Eckerd design build team.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Kara?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion unanimous. All right, and then can I get a motion to ratify the contract with the Park City School Board with Hughes and VCBO for the 4 elementary schools?
I make a motion to ratify the contract as stated. for the four
Second.
elements.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, that is. All right, we will move on to public comment. Let's see, the Board of Education wants to hear the live input from community members at our meetings in order to respect and preserve the time allotted to each presenter on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers representing a group will be limited to 5 minutes. If you wish to address the board, please read and complete the blue public comment sheet on the table by the door and give it to the board clerk, who's Lori up here. And each speaker will be invited to the rostrum to speak in the order in which they are received. Please state your name clearly for the record. The Board of Education expects that all public comments be polite, respectful, and accurate. Please refrain from specifically identifying personnel. Personnel issues are not appropriate for public comment, therefore such comments will not be allowed. So, do we have any public comment, Lori?
I do not.
Did anybody come for public comment? Okay. Then I will move, or do I adjourn, or do I just keep?
So you'll adjourn your regular session,
Okay.
and then we'll reconvene the hearing at 6 o'clock.
Can I get a motion to move our regular, to close our regular session meeting until October, I believe it's is it 19? Yeah, 19 at 4 p.m.
I make a motion to close the regular session until our next meeting on October 19th.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, thanks.
All right, yeah. So we'll just reconvene at 6.
We'll reconvene at 6. Kara will call you back then.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. An hour.
Should have spent more time explaining something.
Oh.
Yeah, she did, but they said they were ratified.
Was that okay?
Thank you.